She likes treats, but she really likes companion. She prefers, she's also a therapy dog. She prefers that over the service dog. She gets me happy. That's
Let's go ahead and get started on our study. Before we do, according to Devarim 8, verse 10, it says, "You will eat and be satisfied and bless Adonai your God for the good land He's given you." So let's do that. Abba, we have eaten and we're satisfied. We thank you for the land. It's in Yeshua's name. Amen. So this is Midrash on Torah portion of Bemidbar. These are the readings we did, and here are the aliyot that we did. Here's the first verse of the portion, where you see the title of the portion, Bemidbar, circled there. Here was the English translation, where it says, "In the wilderness," is the translation of Bemidbar.
Yeah, that's where it's confused me, I guess, for many years. I don't know why.
What was the confusion?
Well, I guess, you just gloss over things. So I just said, oh, Bemidbar, numbers,
I see. Right.
but never really stopped to see if I was right or wrong.
When did they actually start calling it numbers?
Well, probably with the Septuagint,
Yes.
and that was translated. So, guessing somewhere around 200 BCE, somewhere in that time period, was where.
That's when it was translated?
Yeah, that's when the Septuagint was translated. At least the Torah part of it, I think it was, it not all at the same time. So I think the 5 books of Moshe were translated first around 200
Why would
BCE.
they call it? Why would they translate it into numbers instead of?
It did, because they didn't have they didn't title the book by the translated words in the first verse, like the Hebrew idea is. It was a
But it got other books of the Torah correct.
Well, the Latin or the Greek Septuagint title was Arithmoi, which means numbers.
You start with like Shemot, which means names.
Yes.
It's known in English as Exodus, which doesn't mean names.
Right.
So it's thematic. In other words, the theme of the book is this.
But I mean, who assigned it that?
As far as I know, the translator of Septuagint assigned it as that, the Greek and then later the Latin title for those books. Or yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's why the Midbar means wilderness, but I don't know if it can mean wanderings, but either way.
You mean wilderness or desert?
Yeah.
It's really desert. That's the modern day term for desert. And it's a desert over there. It's not a wilderness like you think of plants and trees and everything like that. It's desert.
I think of the desert
There's
as
trees, right?
I think of desert
It
as a
does now
wilderness.
because we plant the trees, but it didn't at the time this was written. And you get up in those, where did the people hide? They hid in the caves in the desert, up in those places. You
Yep.
have all kinds of places now you can go visit, find out where they stayed. And where did all the religious people, leaders disappear to? They stayed 40 days, 50 days in the desert, up in the mountains there.
Oh, yeah.
And what you know today, maybe tomorrow, if the wind blows too much, you won't even find the place you stayed yesterday.
Yeah.
Sand.
So in verse 2, there is a word b'mispar, which means by the number. So it's early on they talk about number in that. So it is part of. I mean, it's very close to. It's not verse 1, but it's verse 2 where number actually appears in the text.
So when you have up there,
Yeah.
for this, you go Bemidbar /numbers.
Yeah, because I have the Hebrew title of the book transliterated and the first book.
So that's why, when for some reason, when I think of Bemidbar, I don't think wilderness, which is the right translation for the word, it's numbers.
It's not a translation though.
Right.
It's just an alternate naming convention, I guess you could say, right? But uh, um, uh, the word in also then you could translate this book as Exodus on the same thing because if you would Letzatan is in verse 1 after Exodus from the land. So it might not have been Exodus because Exodus is obviously not an English word. It's not. I think that it's essentially it's a translation into what you'd recognize. You can see that. I mean, this is it's listed as Exodus here by the JPS. It's also shown as Exodus in the Art Scroll.
But the Old Testament, as we have it in all Bibles, comes from the Masoretic text. But the Greek Septuagint was translated not from the Masoretic text, but from the actual original Hebrew scriptures, as I'll call it. So
I would say that's not proven.
really,
Right. Because you'd have to figure out, there's a Septuagint is at a time period that started to be translated in, about 200 BCE.
right?
What text were they translating from?
I can't say it was the Masoretic text because my understanding of what I read, the Masoretic text didn't come around until later.
Well, it was solidified. Yes, it was solidified later, but the Masoretic text and the Qumran text are ancient and probably around the same time period. And sometimes, as you know, the Masoretic text aligns sometimes with the Qumran text, much of the time with Qumran text. But the Septuagint doesn't align with the Masoretic text,
Right.
and always it doesn't align with Qumran. The Qumran is the oldest Hebrew text. So the Masoretic text.
Well, I don't know if it's older than the Septuagint though, because I thought the Qumran was it's close.
Well, there's differences between the two Hebrew texts and the Septuagint. Sometimes they align with each other, sometimes not. For example, sometimes the Septuagint aligns with the Masoretic text against the Qumran text. But sometimes the Septuagint aligns with the Qumran text against the Masoretic text.
So the question is, was how old have they dated the Qumran text?
Well, Qumran was destroyed by the Romans in about 69 or 70.
True. And then we know that from the on the south side of I think it's Matthew, Luke. We read where Elisheva and Zechariah, that time period. I'm trying to think. It's not in there, but I want to say, where did I read that? Where they had talked about where the priesthood had broken up somewhat, and they moved out to. I don't know if it was necessarily the Essenes. It could have been. I don't know, but it was a group that moved away because of the temple practices and what they were teaching were not lining up with Scripture. So you move that out. Is that when the Qumran started? And was that before Messiah was born or after?
Well, definitely that community was predated Yeshua's birth.
How far?
That's a good question. I don't really know. Some would date it back to even the first temple period. I don't think that's the case,
I don't think so.
but sometime, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years before that. So around the same time, you could say, as the Septuagint, where Qumran was certainly in existence about that same time.
Yeah, I know they tried to equate Yochanan the Immerser as being a part of the Messianic community, which I can't say yea or nay, I don't know.
Right. So his mikvah was very close to where Qumran is, and some of his practices seem to align kind of with that.
So it could have been, I guess it would be possible then, the Qumran community could have left temple practice right around the time, either before or after Yochanan's birth.
Well, the question would be, when did they start up, and what's the relationship between that and the Maccabean period, the Hasmonean dynasty?
Yeah,
They would not have been. I doubt they'd be predating
I
that.
don't think they predate the Maccabees.
Right. So that
It
would be
during
the time of the Maccabeans. They decided that the temple practices were not tov, so they left.
Well, I don't know.
Because that is around 160 something
Yeah,
BCE.
yeah, because of Titus Epiphanes. So I know that the temple practices during that time, people were going away from the Lord, so to speak. So I could see during that period, the Maccabean revolt, them coming out, but it would have to be either right before the revolt, because the Maccabeans were those that upheld the Torah, supposedly. That was the way it goes. So after the revolt, the community should have got back together, but then again, who knows?
What I've seen it as a
I
it's
can see
often
it after too.
it's often thought that the first, the Nazarene community, the Messianic community, was kind of an alliance between some Pharisees and some of Qumran that were, because there's some similar things that Yeshua says about taking your sword when you go to different places and things. Certainly their halacha was not Qumran halacha.
Well, I agree. I agree. I think he aligned more with Hillel than he did with the school of Shammai. And then you can see that with Gamaliel in scripture where he's talking to Paul. So
Right.
he was from the Hillel community, obviously.
Right.
So either way, it was a tumultuous time. I just never could pinpoint. I never really researched it either. The time of the Septuagint writing, I just was always told it predated the Masoretic text.
But again, there's plenty of places where it lines up with the Masoretic text against the Qumran text, which would be about the same,
Yeah.
roughly the same age, perhaps, as the so.
You're gonna have to get a big timeline to put behind you in so that we can just reference it and not have to teach us the same thing over and over. You can just get your long stick and point to it.
No, he'd use that one stick and hit me.
No.
Not that long, not that long.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Okay, I don't remember, you would know. But if you look at the names of the books of the Torah, it basically gives you the gospel. It gives you the gospel. In the beginning, basically he called them out. And so if you look at that way, I know it's enough to be dangerous. But
Be
basically,
dangerous.
it's God calling them out. In the beginning, he called them out of the wilderness. And I don't know what's Deuteronomy.
Words, Devarim.
Words.
But yeah. So I've seen the phrase that if you put it all together, it's kind of the gospel in one sentence as far as God calling them out.
I think once I've heard of that, but I can't remember. I don't remember it too far back.
I've got it written down somewhere at home.
Well, the third book, Vayikra, is, and he called
And he called.
Bereshit is in the beginning.
In the beginning, names, and be
Shemot
called
is names. Yeah,
in the wilderness, words, things.
pretty much. I mean, the whole book of Deuteronomy, I really like it, but you can almost pin the whole Torah right in there.
Yeah, yes, I concur with that. So, how many mitzvot are in this portion?
See,
I'm gonna give you only one answer. Nada.
You only need one answer.
Yep.
I don't know. That's the
Several.
best answer I can give you.
what
None.
is C, nada?
It's the letter none.
Uno.
There are 0 mitzvot in this Torah portion.
Zero. Got it.
So who's familiar with the term head count? That is exactly what's going on in verse 2.
Weren't they commanded to do that?
Yes.
Then why is that not a mitzvah?
Well, a mitzvah.
I'm just picking.
No, but see, I mean, a mitzvah is something that is applicable, to the children of Israel essentially for all times. They're not commanded to always take a census.
In some cases, they're told not to.
They're often told not to. Yeah. So literally, when you look at the literal Se'u at Rosh, is to elevate or lift the head, and it's singular. It's not heads plural, but a dot, congregation of Bnei Israel, the children of the sons of Israel. That is plural. So it's saying that Israel, in this context, has one head to lift, singular head. So
I can't wait till you get there. Then I'll ask.
okay, well, here's a question. I don't know if this question was what you're waiting for. Take a census of the entire assembly of the children of Israel according to their families, father's household, number of the names, every male according to their head count. Why were they commanded to take a head count?
This would be my part of my question.
Because they had to, it was the difference between the rest of Israel and the Levites is for the firstborn. Because of God redeeming when he killed the firstborn in Egypt.
So it does distinguish. There's a military application too, right? There's several times it says military age or something along those lines, depending on which translation you're using. But you're also
bear arms.
yes.
Is the way mine puts it.
Okay. There's one that was I was listening to it at prison. It was not. It was some translated Sava as to the army, but there was one translation that was reading it as it was kind of using a Roman term. The legion. It was using it translated as legion. Sava. So it's a military age listing of the numbers, as well as there is a distinction. It talks about in this passage, Torah portion, about the Levites being taken in place of the firstborn son's priesthood. Talk a little bit more about that.
So my question is,
Yes.
when you go to the book of Shemot, it gives you a number of how many came out. When you compare that number to the number here, it's almost the same. So I know that in that film, Patterns of Evidence, he listed where some theologians like to say, well, that means the clans, the number of clans, and they got the number down so small, it's like, because you couldn't obviously have that many people leaving Egypt. They couldn't, in 200 years, have that many people. But they keep forgetting the first part that talks talked about the mixed multitudes, and where my question leads here is this similar in the Hebrew saying the same thing it says in Exodus by clans and whatever?
I didn't really check and see if the same numbers applied across the board. The overall number is about the same.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the numbers. I'm more concerned about how they came up with the number, because they said, well, the heads of the family or whatever it was they were using, I forgot now. That could mean, the word for 1,000 could mean 4 clans of this nature. So that's why I was kind of like, he never did mention numbers, if I don't remember. I was going to finish trying to watch it before I came here, because I wanted to see if he mentioned the Bemidbar at all. But
I think the word that you're talking about is the word elder,
yeah.
because some people choose to translate that as an every person, every chief, and then some people choose to translate that as a clan,
Right.
like a collective of people being represented by one person.
It's in the interlinear here. It's translated as 1,000.
Yeah. But that's Aleph. What about the Bemidbar? Is that in here too? Is Aleph in the beginning here?
Well, Aleph, I see Aleph here in verse 23, chapter 1, verse 23. Probably earlier now, I'm just saying what pops out. Count for the tribe of Simeon, 9 and 50, Aleph, 300. So 9 and 50,300. So 59,300.
All right. So
Doesn't, as a word that doesn't mean a numerical value, it would seem strange just between two words that mean numerical values on one side and two more on the other side that mean numerical values. So it seems to me, in context, it means a numerical value, not a clan or something like that.
I agree with you. That's why I think in Shemot they got it wrong, and it really does mean 1,000. It's just that they are liberal theologians out there that instead of saying, well, they had 45,000, no, they had 4,500. How do you get that? That doesn't add up.
Oh.
In other words, their mom and pop kettle math just ain't ciphering right,
Okay.
because they use, like you said, that word Eleth to mean number of clans, like 9 clans, having this total number of people, and you're like, it doesn't work.
I can't read comments. I don't know.
That's in that patterns of evidence.
Oh.
So that's all I have. Sorry, didn't mean to drag it out.
That's fine.
Jim already goes sleep.
So there's a lot in this portion about tribal affiliation, tribal inheritance, to designate where specifically fit in. And a big part in this, I think, is verse 3, from 20 years old and upward, whoever is able to go out to war in Israel, as we talked about. With you, moreover, there shall be a man of each tribe, each one head of his father's household. And so this is what Rashi's comment on this is: a person's tribal affiliation is patrilineal. Thus, for example, a Jew with a father from the tribe of Judah and a mother from the tribe of Asher belongs to the tribe of Judah. Yeah, which makes sense. So I do have some pictures, or picture might be the wrong term, but banners and such. This is part of the answer to the one of the questions on the fun challenge to Easter Tabernacle of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. One thing to note, though, is that the Torah doesn't tell us exactly what these banners, ensigns, or flags looked like.
Kind of give hints, but then people use their imagination to come up with the rest.
So those that imagination, so to speak, I'm going to show is from basically the Midrash Rabbah numbers from about this, and here's kind of what it goes into. Each flag was a different color for every flag corresponding to the precious stones on the breastplate of Aaron. Each tribe had its own prince, and its flag color corresponding to the color of its stone. So the first one up is Reuben. Reuben's stone was ruby, with the color of the flag is red and embroidered with mandrakes.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right. Well, from obviously the Bereshit story.
Yep.
Shimon is next. Shimon's was topaz, and his flag was of a green color. The town of Shechem, was embroidered on it. So that might be a bit later. And I think that's anachronistic because they hadn't, at the time this is only second year, right? It's first day of second month in the second year. They had not yet rolled through Shechem. So that's probably a little bit anachronistic. Perhaps in later years they had that on banners or flags.
What was the town that Jacob was in where Dinah was?
Yeah, right. So it could be because he was involved in that.
Yes.
So that could well be. It shows
He
up
was
on
one of the chief.
it's on the stamp, so it's got to be right.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but that topaz does not look green.
Close one eye.
No, it doesn't look green.
So I always think of topaz as,
Pink.
no, it's that's
Yellow.
like birthstone, it's
Amber.
yellow, it's yellow.
No, okay.
Hmm.
So we got a blue stone.
But some of these stones come in different colors. I mean, we're used to seeing, there is blue topaz.
Rock counts, I don't know. So, yeah, okay.
So what do you think? What's Levi's stone, and what is his flag's color?
You're gonna tell us.
I am, but you're going to guess first.
Diamond.
That is one of the answers, but it's not this tribe.
Oh, I know. Opal.
I don't think so.
And neither was a good shot in the dark.
Emerald.
Emerald. No, emeralds are green.
Emeralds could be different.
Color of the flag wasn't green. No, it was
Black.
White.
white, black, and red,
Oh, wow.
and
That was
embroidered
a
with
lot.
Urim and Thummim.
Missed our flag by one color.
Not really.
Red, white, blue.
No. Dark blue could look black for a distance.
Okay, what about Yehuda? What's Yehuda's stone and flag color?
Blue?
I'm going to say
Sapphire?
yes, although the stone isn't blue. Stone was a garnet, it says, carbuncle. But the flag was something like the heavens. Embroidered on it was, of course, a lion. So when it says like the heavens, I'm thinking it would be sort of, I mean, what is said about the color of the Techelet in the Tzitzit? Techelet reminds you of the sea, which reminds you of the heavens. So that's what I'm thinking it is. And actually, in this portion, the word Techelet appears several times. Every time you see the word blue in here, pretty much.
Huh?
When I looked it up to see which word it was used, it's Techelet.
Wow. That's beautiful. Wish the stone was that color.
Okay, what about Issachar? What about Issachar?
How about diamond?
Nope.
You're gonna hit it yet.
I know,
You're gonna
I
get it
only got
right
one
once, but
12,
that's
right?
not this time. Issachar,
That's the sapphire. Oh, I knew
Sapphire.
it somewhere.
and the flag, it says black like antimony. Embroidered on it was a sun and moon, an allusion to the children of Issachar, men that had understanding of the times. So it had a sun and moon on it.
What is antimony? What is that?
It's a deep color black.
Okay, I've never heard that before.
I didn't either.
How come none of the flags are matching the colors that you made?
Well, those aren't flags; those are actually stamps.
Well, wouldn't that be the same as pattern after the flag?
Not in Israel.
No?
No, I didn't understand.
You know, obviously, I think that would have been, that's a product improvement that should have been made. I do. Or at least either A, match the flag, or B, match the stone.
Or neither.
But this is kind of a black color. It's a blackish color on the stamp.
I don't see any black anywhere.
I see green
Well,
and blue. Blue stone, green stamp on a black flag.
So they had a post office back then?
yeah,
Interesting.
Paleo Post Office 101.
Paleo post?
Okay.
Camelback delivery?
Zebulon. What is the stone for Zebulon?
What's that pink stone called for October? What's it called? I don't know. What do you think about it? Topaz? No.
Topaz is November.
Yeah. What is it? I can't think.
Well, this is where you should have guessed diamond.
You quit too soon.
The color of the flag was white with a ship embroidered on it in allusion to the text, Zebulon shall dwell at the shore of the sea.
Okay, I was thinking it had to have something with the sea and just done blue, so it wasn't him. I knew Zebulon was to be at the sea.
Mhm.
Yeah, the stamp makers, they didn't follow the sequence. They made their own.
It's got a boat on it.
Is that really a boat? Looks like a book. I can't see it from here.
Oh, well, maybe there's sails. It's a boat.
Really?
Yeah, there's
Looks like two
sails.
pages.
There's sails and oars rather sticking out the side of it.
It's an old fashioned.
Oh, okay.
It's not a steamship. Okay, what is the animal on Dan's?
Snake.
Good job.
You got something right.
Dan's stone was jacinth. Hebrew word there is lashem. And the color of the flag was similar to sapphire. Embroidered on it was a serpent. In allusion to the text, Dan should be a serpent in the way.
Ooh, I hate snakes.
So what is the tribal banner? What is the stone for God or Gad? I want to say it that way.
Ruby?
Nope.
Oh, that's right. It was Ruby. I forgot. Sorry.
So this is kind of a question, I guess. It says it was not. It's an agate, but the color of the flag doesn't really match that. It's neither white nor black, but a blend of those two. So I'm guessing kind of a grayish color. On it was embroidered a camp. You see there's tents there. Looks like
Yeah,
pyramid.
it looks like a pyramid.
Looks like a pyramid, but it's supposed to be tents. I believe.
That's a crazy.
A camp. In allusion to the text, God, a troop shall troop upon him. Okay, Naphtali. What is the animal for Naphtali?
Deer. Or antelope.
Hind. Hind. Not a
What's a hind?
not a Soviet helicopter, but a hind is like a
It's like a deer.
deer. Yeah.
I know what a hind is, but that doesn't.
That doesn't look like a hindy. No, okay, you're right. Naphtali's stone was an amethyst, and the color of his flag was like clarified wine of a not very deep red. On it was embroidered a hind, loose in the text. Naphtali is a hind let loose.
Wow. We gotta talk to them stamp makers.
Okay, so the next slide says to me that it's Asher is adopting the Golani Brigade adopted the Asher. See the Golani Shali in the bottom there is
tree.
the olive tree. Yeah. Asher stone was a beryl, and the color of his flag was like a precious stone with which women adorn themselves. An olive tree was embroidered on it. Allusion to the text, as for Asher, his bread shall be shemonah, fat.
I got one question. Is beryl supposed to be all of those in the mix?
Beryl varieties by geologyin.com. So beryl varieties: emerald, Helidor, Boxbite, Aquamarine, Maxine, Morganite, Goshenite, and Trapiche Emerald.
And I thought I was a confused Pollock, my goodness. Yeah, that's, I like the tree with the yellow, that looks like it'd be perfect for them.
Well, that's the Gold Lining Brigade symbol, so it's very.
Yeah. That's easy.
What about Yosef?
Oh, this would be interesting.
What color is Yosef's flag?
I don't know.
Onyx is the stone. The color of the flag was jet black. Embroidered on it was a flag. On that was Egypt, because Ephraim and Manasseh were born in Egypt. There are different banners, though, shown for Ephraim and Manasseh. So for Ephraim, it says embroidered a bullock, in allusion to the text, his first thing bullock, which applies to Joshua. This example has as a red color. It seems to me that it probably was more of a black flag, same as Yosef's listing there. And Manasseh was similar as a wild ox. And his horns are the horns of the wild ox, according to Deuteronomy 33:17, which alludes to later to Gideon, son of Joash, who came from the tribe of Manasseh. So, what is the animal for Binyamin?
Wolf.
Wolf is correct, and there's a howling wolf on that flag there, or at least a stamp. The stone was jasper, and the colors of the flag was a combination of 12 colors, all of them together. Embroidered on it was a wolf. In allusion to the text, Benjamin is a wolf, a ravenous wolf.
Combination of the 12 colors.
So it seems like it'd be, what if you mixed all the colors together?
Look like a rug.
I think probably the darker colors would have more, would basically make it pretty close to being an eerie, like a dark gray, or possibly a light black, possibly.
It depends on how they did it. I mean, did they dye it all together? You dye all the colors together, it's black.
Particularly since black was several parts of several other ones, including antimony. So this portion has the text of the change of the priesthood in it. Bullock taken the Levi'im from among the children of Israel, instead of every firstborn that opens the womb among the children of Israel, and the Levi'im shall be mine, for the firstborn are mine. And I have a slide that asks to compare several passages. But I'm just going to go to the second to the bottom one here, looking at the Aramaic texts for Revelation, Gileana in Aramaic, which there's a difference in most translations from the Greek text of Revelation, where in 1 verse 6, where it says, a kingdom, or made us kings and priests. In the Aramaic text, it says a kingdom of priests, which would align with, if you go back to this slide, that aligns with the passage from Shemot or Exodus 19:5 and 6. We also see it. There's another text besides the Peshitta text for Revelation. It's called the Crawford Aramaic manuscript, and it also says a kingdom of priests there. So it seems that the change of priesthood is at some point going to be returned back in some form to the original plan, the plan before the golden calf. You kind of see some of that in Isaiah 66, where it talks about taking people from a lot of different places to become priests or Levites, as it says, Levites and priests. So, of course, when you think of kingdom of priests and then compare it with Isaiah 66, talking about Levites and priests, there's a distinction between the two. Obviously, Levites are the overarching. You can't be a Cohen without being a Levite in that context, but not all Levites are Kohanim.
All poodles are dogs, but not all dogs are poodles.
That's right.
You can say that about any dog. Right.
Well, but see, what he's saying is all poodles fit into the overall category of dogs.
Yeah.
So all Levites, all Kohanim fit into the overall category of Levites, but they're separate from Levites. They have different jobs. And we've seen the different jobs are specific in our portion. You can't let Kohat see the coverings and so on, or they'll die. So here's the next question is not about a movie about Troy or I'm sorry, Thermopylae, whatever it is. No, find that battle of whatever it was with Xerxes and such. The missing 300. So when you add the numbers up here, it adds up to 22,300. But the text says 22,000. Why? What is the difference?
They rounded it.
Maybe.
We do that today. How many were there? Oh, there was.
Well, it seems odd that they'd be rounding that number when they go into specifically in where it says there were 22,273 Levites, right?
Yeah, well,
They didn't.
more precise.
That was extremely precise, and it's in the same Torah portion here.
But in everyday language, they might have done the same thing we did. Oh, around 3,000. Around, and it always ends in 0 or 5s.
Well, maybe, but what is taught is that in the bottom of this thing, our sages in Tractate Becharot answered that those 300 Levites were firstborn. You go to the next slide here, actually. It says, it's been taught, why is the word Aaron, I'm sorry, wrong one. Okay, this is where it is. A Roman general, Controcos, which is possibly Quintus, asked, in the detailed record of the numbering of the Levites, you find 22,300, whereas in some Bill you find only 22,000. Where is the remaining 300? This says, he replied to him, the remaining 300 were Levite firstborn, and a firstborn cannot cancel the holiness of another firstborn or non-Levite firstborn. So you wouldn't have, the connection between 2,300 and 2,273 is, you could say maybe the 273 is rounded to 300, but if you have 300 Levite firstborns of the 22,273, what we're saying is that the 22,300 of the Levites, the 300 could not be doubly counted. In other words, you can't cancel the firstborn offering of a Levite in the way you can't cancel the firstborn offering of the non-Levites. And the 300 Levite firstborn is what accounts for the missing 300. Back up a slide here. There is something that you don't necessarily see in your Bibles unless you're reading from a Torah scroll. But over the word that's dot, there are dots over the Aharon in the text. I didn't check, I usually check and see if this particular passage occurs in Qumran scrolls. Every time I've looked in the past, there hasn't been there wasn't that portion had been eaten by worms, yeah.
Worms get around a lot.
They do. So this is in 339 is where the dots are over the top of the word.
It was teeth marks.
What?
It was teeth marks.
Biting?
He was hungry.
Didn't know what it's translated as. Told to be later.
So this one has it shown in it, so I'll show it around here. Here are the dots over the Aharon.
Is that the dots and tittles?
It could be that same idea of jots and tittles, yeah.
How many dots are there?
One over every single letter,
How many is that?
5.
Wow. Is this a Chumash?
Yes,
Time. Okay.
it's the Humash. This is only for Bemidbar, but it's part of the group. You see the gospel form. There they are, right there. There's asterisks next to it too, but that wasn't part of the text. The asterisk is to tell you to look at the notes.
I noticed the asterisk, but I didn't think it was a part.
It was a paleo asterisk.
There you go.
No, what the notes say
He's not a
things
priest.
like this. They say something like, "It has been taught." Why is the word Aharon dotted in the book of Numbers? The answer, because Aharon, was not in that numbering of the Levites. The text note to that says, "For all dottings of a word have the purpose of limiting and excluding something." So that's what they're saying in terms of his, he was a firstborn. ...
Wow. You got it. Okay. Very good.
5 dots.
Dot, dot, dot.
So kind of, I guess my slide's out of order here, but it says essentially, in other words, Aaron and the 300 of the Levites already belong to Yah. They have already been redeemed, so it cannot be double counted again as a substitution for the firstborn of Israel. Which brings us to our final slide of questions. And so Dixie wants to know if you have any questions.
Who's with Dizzy?
I think that's her baby, that's her baby.
I know Dixie had a baby.
It's a stuffed animal.
Oh, okay. That's it.
She got a stuffed animal, baby.
It's called Beit.
Well, that's cool.
Opie? Oh.
It's called Baby. She has her baby.
Ah. I guess
It's gotta be cleared.
Really?
Now we can make something out of whatever it's in.
Stereo.
Well, if that's the case, let's pray and close and get ready for Haftarah. We thank you for the freedom to read your word, to study your word. We thank you for the blessing of that. We thank you for giving us wisdom to learn about your word to us and how to help us and to help us to walk it out. We thank you in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Avadallah.
You need to remember one truth. There were no trees in Israel until the return of the Jews.
This is true.